I'm coming. I'm coming. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Boulder. Hello, my name is Steve Todd, and I will be the worship leader for today's service. It was March 15th, 2020, exactly 17 months ago, that we began virtual services only via Zoom because of the COVID-19 pandemic. Today, service number 74, is once again Zoom only, but exciting news. Next Sunday, you will have a choice between attending on Zoom or attending live and in person. And later in the service, I'll be sharing more information about that. So stay tuned and stay alert. We welcome all at the Unitarian Universalist Church of Boulder. If you are a new visitor, please email our office manager, Amy Zen, and let us know you found us. You will find her email in the Zoom chat. Our church website has a great deal of information about the church and our activities. And that link is also being posted in the chat. So now, please ensure that your microphones remain muted, except for sharing our covenant, and join us for worship.
Today's opening words are in the form of a poem entitled Pandemic, notably by Lynn Unger. Notably, it was written on March 11th, 2020. What if you thought of it as the Jews consider the Sabbath, the most sacred of times? Cease from travel, cease from buying and selling. Give up, just for now, on trying to make the world different than it is. Sing, pray, touch only those to whom you commit your life. Center down. And when your body has become still, reach out with your heart. Know that you are connected in ways that are terrifying and beautiful. You can hardly deny it now. Know that our lives are in one another's hands. Surely that has come clear. Do not reach out your hands. Reach out your heart. Reach out your words. Reach out all the tendrils of compassion that move invisibly where we cannot touch. Promise this world your love, for better or for worse, in sickness and in health, so long as we all shall live.
With love or hate, we make a bridge or wall. Our world is one world. Its ways of wealth affect us all. The way we spend, the way we share, who are the rich or poor, who stand or fall. Our world is one world, just like a ship that bears us all, where fear
If you have a personal chalice or candle near your computer, please get ready to light it. And we invite you to type into the chat box where your chalice is lit, the street or neighborhood, or what city if you are joining us from outside of Boulder County. And now I'd like to invite the Reverend David Schwartz to light this morning's chalice.
Friends, it is so good to be with you in this virtual service. My family and I arrived last weekend to our new home in Longmont, and we're settling in. The chalices are still in boxes. In fact, everything is still in boxes. So I'll invite you to light a chalice for me this morning. 17 months and 74 services later, what will you keep? What will you let go of? What will you imagine for the future? These words for the chalice lighting are by the Reverend Sean Dennison, friend and colleague, called How to Survive the Apocalypse. How to survive the apocalypse. First, learn to listen. Not only for enemies around corners in hidden places, but for the faint footsteps of hope and the whisper of resistance. Hone your skills, aim your heart toward kindness, and stockpile second chances. Under the weight of destruction, we will need the strong shelter of forgiveness and the deeper wells that give the sweet water of welcome. We have a place for you. When the world ends, we must not add destruction to destruction, not accept a beggar's bargain to fight death with more death. In order to survive the apocalypse, any apocalypse at all, we have to give up the counterfeit currency of self-sufficiency, the mistaken addiction to competition. We have to give up the lie that the last to die has somehow survived. Friends, 17 months and 74 services later, what will you keep from all these weeks? And what will you let go of? And what will you imagine for the future? There is no going back. There's only going forward. And in that spirit, as a community, and a community who chooses the road we follow, we light our chalice this morning.
We now invite all those gathered in your various locations to join together in fellowship and community as we all say aloud our congregation's covenant. We gather in fellowship to speak truth to each other, to reach out and touch one another,
care with
each other, and to speak the truth
divine.
Divine.
So be it.
So be it.
Put us on mute.
In this deep connection with all of life, let us tune into our own joys and concerns. What is on your mind and in your heart today? In the quiet of your own thoughts, just for a moment, lift up all that weighs on you, grief, worry, pain, and all that lifts your spirit. Whatever it is, let us hold this and each other in a moment of silence. Now let us turn our hearts and minds to those we love, holding them with love, acknowledging their painful challenges and sufferings. I invite you, as we've done now for many Sundays, to share any concerns that you wish in the chat box, And as they go along, I will name a few. Today, in our container of love and care, we lift up the people of Afghanistan and share our grief, especially the educated women of Afghanistan, Alan Davis suggests. And yes, there's concern about the illness surges caused by this Delta variant of COVID. There's fear for our changing climate, which we have experienced so directly this summer with our air quality and smoky views. Peter Ruminaire asks us to keep in our thoughts his brother John, who's experiencing Alzheimer's. And in one of the other trouble spots around the world, we share sadness for the lives that were lost in the Haiti earthquake. Please continue posting if you wish. We offer love and witness to those who are suffering. And now I invite you to bring to mind, to bring into your heart, the things for which we are grateful, then bring you joy. Again, you're welcome to post your joys and celebrations in the chat box now. Blessings for the teachers getting ready to go back to school, and for all school staff, and for all students. Excitement that we will have the opportunity to be in person next Sunday. Excited to move to Boulder, Lavinia shares with us. Lavinia, sorry. Wishes for a safe journey to Elliot. Elliot, son of Whitney and Jim, who returns to school at Case Western in the near future. Elation to see through the cleaner air today and find out that our mountains are still there. Reverend David shares gratitude for the warm welcome from UUCB. You're welcome to continue to post, but for all these blessings and concerns, as well as those that remain silently on our hearts, we hold this compassionate space with love. Thank you for all the ways that you bless each other.
Thing I want to see.
I know that, and it was there a little bit ago, and I tried every one of them, and nothing came up with sound. There were about 6 or 7 things, and I
We turn now to our opportunity to show our gratitude
Chef,
in our morning
Command
offering.
A.
command.
This month's Share Our Plate offering will benefit UUCB's programs and ministries, and we want to thank you for your generous support. You can make a donation now using the link posted in our chat, or by sending a check to UUCB, or scanning the QR code coming up on the next slide with your mobile phone. Please be as generous as you can. Now we will virtually receive your offerings. May our gifts be used to enact justice, bringing peace and love to the Boulder community. And now, to begin the presentation of our message for today, I want to introduce Jack Doggett, UUCB member and friend.
Good morning. I want to start my presentation with a reading. In the Buddhist teachings of 2,600 years ago, the idea that there is no separate self, that we're part of all of nature, is a key teaching. And our UU seventh principle talks about the interconnected web of existence of which we are all a part. And finally, in the context of one of the mantras of this pandemic, which is, we are all in this together. So I've chosen a poem called The Little Duck. Now we are ready to look at something pretty special. It is a duck riding the ocean.
Do we have our
100 feet
speakers
on the surf.
on?
No, it isn't a gull. A gull always has a raucous tuff about him. This is some sort of duck, and he cuddles in the swells. He isn't cold, and he is thinking things over. There is a big heaving in the Atlantic, and he is part of it. He looks a bit like a mandarin or the Lord Buddha meditating under the bo tree, but he has hardly enough above the eyes to be a philosopher. He has poise, however, which is what philosophers must have. He rests while the Atlantic heaves, because he rests in the Atlantic. Probably he doesn't know how large the ocean is, and neither do you, but he realizes it. And what does he do, I ask? He sits down in it. He reposes in the immediate as if it were infinity, which it is. That is religion, and the duck has it. He has made himself part of the boundless by easing himself into it just where it touches him. I like the little duck. He doesn't know much, but he has religion. It was written by Donald Babcock, who was a philosophy professor at the University of New Hampshire. My wife Kay and I moved to Boulder County in July 2019 to live near our only daughter and her family and to establish ourselves in this community. As UUs for 48 years, active participation in a lively congregation is a big part of our lives. We had been visiting this church over the years when we came for extended visits from Flagstaff, our home of 25 years. We were thrilled to
that's
get
okay.
here
We can
just in
leave it.
time
It's
for the
not-
all-church retreat in August
we've done
2019
it
at Alex Park. We felt so welcomed, and that feeling continued. After that, I went to the men's group, Kay went to the book club, covenant groups, and we went to auction events. So for us, the shutdown of in-person connections in the spring of 2020 was a big cutoff from this new community. If you recall, sometime in late March of 2020, life in our community came almost to a halt. Schools closed, workers were sent home, stores of all kinds were scenes of chaos. We were asked not to go more than 10 miles from home. We felt pretty walled in, but we also were incredibly grateful to have each other during this time. As the world hit pause, a new normal unfolded with masks and hand sanitizer, social distancing, and staying at home. Groceries or takeout was delivered and people lost jobs. The government sent most people checks to tide them over and keep the economy afloat. We seem to live by charts and graphs, most indicating crisis. After the infections slowed in late summer and fall, the back to school process generated much more illness, and the winter became the real peak of the pandemic. How many of you shared holiday meals with friends and family on Zoom? There was a lot of confusion. How we responded to this confusion became important. After the November election was sorted out, the prospect of a new government offered some hope. And the arrival of vaccines in January opened up the possibility of all this coming to an end. Herd immunity became the new buzzword. There has been a return of ease. And I don't mean that the pandemic is over. We all know the Delta variant is creating a third, or is it the fourth wave? But our restricted life has opened up some. We'll meet again at UUCB for worship and fellowship, outside and with masks. With vaccinations widespread, we can hug one another again. We are getting out of the house, going on hikes without masks and dining out, outside that is. As we proceed, however slowly, towards another new normal, it seems worthwhile to reflect on what we've experienced. For whatever emptiness we experienced over the past year or more, what will we refill it with? What did you receive in this time of isolation that you want to keep? What are you ready to give away or let go? For me, I cherish the blessings of friendship, even with distancing. I also want to keep up my practices of meditation and yoga, even on Zoom. I found comfort in the stillness of small gatherings for meals or coffee. But larger gatherings with all the chattering and ego-filled stories are less appealing, and small talk seems flat now. Over the pandemic, I met with a small Buddhist study group on Zoom. We recently found that gathering in person is much more distracting, and we're returning to online meetings. Such is my love-hate relationship with Zoom. How about you? I do want to travel, but my priority is now to see family and friends to connect. I want to hold on to the deep gratitude I have felt for my health and compassion for those who are suffering. And I want to learn how to sit better with grief. As life has opened up, I have questioned my impulsive longing to browse and shop or just go someplace. I'm finding myself less attached to these old, rather aimless ways. I plan to be open to what comes next and be okay with not knowing for a while, just to float on the waves like a little duck and to rest more easy in stillness. I do enjoy getting out in nature and hiking without a mask. Nature has been a wonder over the past year, and I realize I would rather spend time there than at the mall. So how will you find your new normal? What do you plan to keep, and what will you be ready to release? We asked several UUCB members to share their reflections on coming out the COVID time. No one exemplifies the welcoming that Kay and I felt more than Fred Cole and Barb Richards. Steve Todd sat with him this last week and asked them to share their reflections.
This morning I'm with Fred Cole and Barb Richards.
Yeah, hi. You know, the questions that have been posed this morning are something that we've been talking about every Wednesday morning since back in last April in what's called our Senior Salon Wise Elders Wednesday morning chats. And so with the permission of some of the other members of that group, we're going to kind of share some of the things that we've learned over that period of time.
Great.
And well, the first question is what to keep, I think, or what did we like? And actually, people keep talking about being a little tired of going to Zoom meetings, but overall, I think keeping Zoom meetings is a great idea.
Uh-huh.
And certainly the expansion that we've seen and having people from all over the country participate, like here in church, has been a real boon.
Yeah.
I want to share Dan Anderson and Lois Anderson, who spend half the year in Colorado and half on Whidbey Island. So they've been able to join us every Wednesday as well as on Sunday morning because of Zoom. And Dan's comment has been that he has learned so much more about people individually on Wednesday morning Zoom than he ever can during coffee hour. So
Really?
we've gotten into some real depth and wonderful, unusual, ordinary, all types of conversations. It's gone the full gamut.
Yeah, just to pick up on that a little more is I've learned more about Dan, and I've known him for about 30 years than I ever knew before. So hang in there, Dan.
And I imagine you've talked about things that you're ready to get rid of or want to go back to as well.
Oh, absolutely. And I think you probably hear this theme throughout, that face masks and lockdowns and just the feeling of isolation.
Yeah.
One of the good things about our weekly groups, I feel, has been for the people who live alone. You know, some of us have someone we live with or several someones. But if you've been alone through all this, it's really been tough.
And it really, these morning sessions have really helped along
Yeah.
that line. And we heard that several times. And the other thing that came out of it is, particularly since this is an older group, is we've lost some of our fear of technology.
Ah,
The jokes about finding, where's my grandchild when I need them have kind of faded.
And Fred's been the techie for the group. Some of the, I should say, some of the single women, Fred, how do I do this? So he's been helpful with that.
oh, cool.
Yeah,
Necessity becomes the mother of invention, right?
yes,
Right.
it does.
And the things we'd like to return to are,
Well, certainly, we're so glad to be back almost in church and doing and back to the greeting table in person. We're looking forward to that.
We're looking forward to having you there.
yeah. However, it's been fun for the two of us to be the greeters on Sunday morning with Zoom.
Yeah.
So we also been able to hop around from room to room when people gather for coffee via Zoom. So that's worked really well too.
Yeah, that's one of the real benefits here was being able to do that table hopping and say hello to those new people that have been joining us each
Yeah.
week. Yeah.
From all over the country.
Yeah, great.
And certainly, we've missed the hugging and all the other things that go with gathering.
Right.
And the biggest thing that the two of us can think of that we want to get back to is General Assembly. I'm sorry, a virtual General Assembly ain't a General Assembly.
Okay, well, we all hope that happens too. And I really appreciate you guys sharing your thoughts.
Yeah, we're
Our
happy to,
pleasure.
happy to.
Okay, see you soon.
Bye.
See you in church.
Yeah,
Okay.
see you at church.
Next is Diana Maiden, who spent the pandemic at home in Boulder, and she has these thoughts to share.
When I was a child, about 9, I was given a task that was impossible. I was charged with mailing about 20 LPs, long playing records, to my uncle in Ohio. They needed to be packaged, wrapped, addressed, and dropped off at the post office. Feeling the impossibility of doing this alone, I took a simple approach. I hid them in a location I knew my father would never find and lied. It worked. As difficult as the pandemic has been, as heavy a burden as it is, it also cannot be packaged in all the useless Amazon boxes in my garage and mailed express to the past. And I cannot hide it in a secret childhood cubbyhole. So I wrestle with questions and welcome this opportunity to share with you. I hope this is the beginning of a conversation. So what do I want to keep? I must remember and nurture the deep connections that exist with my children, extended family, and friends. I must remember and respect how others deal with fear and isolation and offer a calm presence if they seek my help. I must remember my need for nature, even if it is as simple as watching the wind through the cottonwood in my backyard and marveling at the birds who have woven it into their lives. I want to remind myself that my creativity with words and visual art is a source of both joy and healing for me. But what do I want to let go? I need to release any sense of superiority that my relative well-being is the result exclusively of my own effort. Rather, I will wrestle with my privilege in our culture which cocoons me from circumstances that would otherwise overwhelm me. And lastly, what do I want to imagine for the future? I imagine and want to work for an economy that is built on basic human rights and recognizes the moral imperative of a living wage. I want to support an educational system that embeds science, civics, and connectedness to the wider world for all students. I want to work for a meaningful, permanent memorial to all those who have died because of the pandemic, so that we do not forget, so that we are reminded and rebuild our country with compassion at its core.
Our last speaker is, in my segment, is Allison Churnside, who spent the pandemic at home with school-aged children. And this is her sharing.
I'm Alice Churnside. As many of you know, my husband and I have 2 elementary-aged children. Most of my life in the last year and a half has revolved around making sure their social and academic education is all right. And I've been fortunate to be able to spend a lot of time doing that. On Wednesday, as of right now, they're going back to school in person for the first time. I think it will be good for them on balance, but I'm really worried about them getting sick since they can't be vaccinated yet. I'm at least grateful to live in a community where most people are taking COVID seriously. The thing I'd most like to leave behind from this time, but I can't yet, is the constant layer of risk assessment, negotiation, complication, that COVID just adds to everything. We're more cautious than most because of past run-ins with pneumonias. So for a play date, for instance, we discuss inside or outside, masks or no masks. It just gets really tiring. On the bright side, we've spent lots of time exploring the neighborhood as a family. On the several hundred walks we've taken around the block, we've followed fox tracks through the snow, watched a blue jay family grow up, and wondered which tree a particularly interesting pine cone came from. As my kids go back to school, I hope to keep some time of this exploring what's right under our noses with them. I'm also looking forward to returning to the exploration we used to do indoors, though realistically, it probably won't be until early next year. My daughter recently told me she misses our trips to the Denver Art Museum, which has a ton of great kid-friendly stuff, and I really miss that too. So I appreciate some prayers or good vibes or whatever it is you do for those of us with younger kids for their health over the next few months while they're especially vulnerable. Thank you all. Please be well.
It's been a long day without you, my friend, and I'll tell you all about it when I see you again. We've come a long way from where we began. Oh, I'll tell you all about it when I see you again. When I see you again.
Dang, who knew? All the planes we flew, good things we've been through. I'll be standing right here talking to you about another path. I know we'd love to hit the road and laugh, but something told me that it wouldn't last. Had to switch up, look at things different, see the bigger picture. Those were the days, hard work forever pays.
Now I see you in a better place.
See you in a better place.
How can we not talk about family when family's all that we got? Everything I went through, you were standing there by my side, and now you're gonna be with me for the last ride. It's been a long day without you, my friend, and I'll tell you all about it when I see you again. We've come a long way from where we began. Oh, I'll tell you all about it when I see you again. When I see you again. First you both go watch your way, and the vibe is feeling stronger. What's small turn to a friendship, and friendship turn to a bond, and that bond will never be broken, and love will never get lost. And when brotherhood comes, then the line will never be crossed. Established straight on our own when that line had to be drawn, and that line is what we reach. So remember me when I'm gone.
When I'm gone,
When I'm gone. How can we not talk about family when family's all that we got? Everything I went through, you were standing there by my side, and now you're gonna be with me for the last time. So let the light guide your way. Yeah. Hold every memory as you go, and every road you take will always lead you home. It's been a long day without you, my friend, and I'll tell you all about it when I see you again. We've come a long way from where we began. Oh, I'll tell you all about it when I see you again. When I see you again.
In the early months of 2020, when the Unitarian Universalist Association released guidelines for church life during the pandemic, they suggested there should be no in-person gatherings until May 2021. At the time, that just seemed like an absurd length of time to be isolated, cut off from the Sunday worship experience we've always known. None of us knew what shape this experience would take. Almost none of us had ever heard of Zoom. By June of this year, 2021, there still was no firm date as to when in-person UUCB worship services would resume. But when Jack proposed this topic as the theme for one of our summer Zoom services, I was upbeat, fully vaccinated, just back from our first travel outside of Boulder and our first live contact with all of our kids and grandkids in 18 months. It was a relief, a joy, a freedom. It was hugs and 3D smiles and long talks and meals together. It was excitement for a June wedding in the family that was first scheduled to happen a year ago. Soon thereafter, UUCB plans crystallized around a new settled minister and an August 22nd date for first contact, first hugs, first service, first renewal of normalcy. We thought we could look back at that point on our pandemic experience with some distance from the perspective of those who had survived the rapids, even conquered them, and now had found still water on the other side. It turns out that pandemic lifespans continue to be unpredictable, and we continue to grapple with ever-changing circumstances. That in itself is stressful, and as such, something we wish we could leave behind. If not now, then sometime very soon, perhaps that will happen. We don't know yet. But we do know that next Sunday, August 22nd, we will return to 2 services, live and in person, at UUCB, 9:15 and 11 o'clock, just like it used to be. 2 services, because maybe we'll have so many people we need that, and also because we can space ourselves out a little better as we start meeting in person. We're calling it a homecoming celebration and a service in the park, because while we can't yet be inside together, we will be together outside on the church grounds, under the trees, socially distanced, hopefully vaccinated and masked, taking care for the safety of one another, especially our children. And with those minor adjustments, we will meet and sing and share our blessings and concerns and pass an offering. We will hear a message from our 2 ministers, and we will have a chance for fellowship and summer beverages after both the 9:15 and the 11 o'clock service. So, chairs will be set out on the lawn and in the shaded part of the west parking lot, but maybe not enough, depending on how many of you come. So you might bring a camp chair or a blanket for this inaugural service in the park. Bring some water, perhaps a parasol, and please come early, at least 15 minutes early, to get name tags and get settled so we can start on time. This model will probably continue for the next 6 to 8 weeks, pending weather, air quality, and COVID conditions. But importantly, we will continue to have a Zoom service or some form of live broadcast of these precious gatherings for those who can't be or don't feel comfortable being here in person. And then we will see what comes next. So this Sunday marks a major transition and turning point, and therefore the perfect time to be exploring and reflecting on these past 17 months, as well as anticipating what will be unfolding in the months to come. I want to read you the lyric of the chorus of that song that you just heard, and I'm sure touched your heart. It's been a long day without you, my friend. And I'll tell you all about it when I see you again. We've come a long way from where we began. Oh, I'll tell you all about it when I see you again. When I see you again. These simple words sung so beautifully by those wonderful children pack a ton of meaning and open up deep wells of feeling. The long day is shorthand for the long year we've had. All the experiences, the fears, the uncertainties and frustrations and losses, so many losses. But once, twice, and three times, the underlying connection and hope come pouring out. When I see you again, my friend, soon I will see you again. I will tell you all about it when I see you again. As members in covenant together in this fellowship that is UUCB, we long to share with each other the reminder that we are there for each other, and that being in a spiritual community together means so much to us. We've been without, but not for much longer. I yearn to tell you all about it. You've been on my mind. I've missed you. I missed what we've had together from a long way back where we began. I long to see you again. I long to be seen by you too. So we share life. We share our lives. We share a spiritual life with one another. One way we grow together is by sharing our experiences. Another way is encouraging each other in meaningful living and spiritual practices, be it meditation or nature walks, emphasizing gratitude, paying it forward, the help that we've received, being a sincere listener, and so many more. So Jack and I reached out to a lot of our members to hear about those experiences, and we were encouraged and enriched by what they told us. People spoke about a sense of calm, the richness of family time, a heightened awareness of the deep connection between physical health and mental health, all things on their wish to keep list. And they listed chit-chat, hugs, play, touch, singing, eating together, making music together, all things people are eager to return to. And of course, as Reverend David said, we won't really be returning because time doesn't work that way. But we'll be envisioning a future with those things in it. And of course, leaving behind masks, fogged glasses, heightened anxiety about health and safety and loneliness. You've heard from a few of these folks, and we want to give you a chance to listen to a few more.
My name is Peter Rumanier, and I want to hold on to the memory of the combination of joy and pain which I experienced with the reopening of society May through July of this year, 2021. I moved to the Boulder area in the middle of 2020, and because it's been the pandemic year, I have not met hardly anybody in the church nor people outside the church. On top of which, in January, I was hospitalized with COVID and spent close to 3 months pretty much wrapped up with oxygen in my house. So compare that to two, to me, almost shockingly joyful events. One was meeting a person who I first got to know through Zoom about 9 months ago. We finally met together, the two of us, in June. She was shorter than I had expected. I was taller than she had expected. And I was dazzled, fascinated by the smallest of gestures of hers. Her putting her key into the door lock, her stepping on to a bus, her washing the dishes, her putting the coffee cup on the table. The second thing I experienced a few weeks later was a dance performance of 2 parts One was a performance on video of about a dozen dancers, each self-filming themselves on their smartphones at their homes, closeted in their homes, dancing by themselves. When that was done, several live dancers came on the stage, and I was drawn in magnetically into their movements, into the excitement of physicality of the human body. I will take from this not only an experience of joy with the pain, a memory of confinement, but also, I hope, a better appreciation of those who are confined one way or the other in their lives.
And of course, I wanted to ask my wife about her experience.
I'm Heidi Todd. Like so many others, I've been reevaluating the patterns and priorities of my life in light of COVID. One of my many realizations from pandemic restrictions is that I actually rather like a mellower, less busy lifestyle, and I'm blessed, privileged to be able to live comfortably that way. My goal can be summed up with a riff on President Biden's slogan, "Build back better, not busier." To simplify, I'm trying to jettison things that feel stressful, unproductive, or frustrating. Excess computer time is high on that list. If it's unnecessary or redundant, I'm letting it go. However, there's the risk of letting go of too much and ceasing to grow or contribute. How do I decide what to keep? Here's my starter checklist. It's a keeper if it lets me develop and share my strengths or lets me learn something I've been needing and wanting to know. It brings real joy or satisfaction or feeds my soul and well-being. It strengthens my relationships. It offers worthwhile benefit for the effort expended. It is energy and time efficient and builds on what others are doing. It is really useful, or it is something I honestly want. Thinking in this way helped me to decide to focus my UUCB activities on the Climate Action Ministry and Chancel Katz music. I also think that Zoom deserves to be kept. What started as a pandemic necessity has allowed me to make connections not possible before. I can study again with my longtime dance mentor in Minneapolis. Keeping in touch with distant family is better. And while it won't totally replace the need or desire for in-person meeting, during a snowstorm, I'd sure rather go to a church meeting on Zoom than drive on icy roads. As I consider what to keep and what to let go, I've been surprised at how many things I do that I don't want or have to do. Of course, I can't always do what I want. Sometimes the desired end requires difficult means, but looking at my checklist can help me to decide what to say yes to.
Thank you, Heidi. And one last video, this from Janet and Bob Evans.
We are grateful.
Good morning. We're Bob and Janet Evans, and our experiences with the pandemic could be summed up in that phrase. We are grateful.
Our situation and resources just made it a little easier for us to cope.
We do not have the complications, jobs, children, aged parents, confined living conditions, or health issues.
So compared to others, we've been pretty lucky.
Still, it was a great change in our lives.
There was the possibility of retreating inwards into ourselves, but this simple set of daily reminders helped us to stay connected. Here they are.
What am I grateful for today?
Who am I checking in with or connecting with today?
What expectations of normal am I letting go of today?
How are we going to get outside today?
How am I moving my body around today?
What beauty am I creating, cultivating, or inviting in today?
Our Unitarian Universalist Church of Boulder helps so much in answering these questions.
Moving into the online world allowed us to remain connected and allowed us to use skills to help others in that move.
We started a Wednesday morning Zoom-based meeting for housebound seniors and wise elders. Janet became the Zoom whisperer,
That's true.
guiding people through the maze to use Zoom with much patience.
And Bob joined the AV team, the wizards that guide the online services. And I also helped with the worship team.
Meditating, exercising, and keeping in touch with friends and family has grounded us. The UU Church of Boulder is our rock.
We are grateful and looking forward to returning again to our extended family gathering on Sunday mornings.
We are grateful.
We are grateful.
I saved the meditation period for this spot in the service. So, as we often do, find a comfortable way of being wherever you are. Maybe it's feet on the floor, sitting up straight. Maybe it's lying flat on your back. And take just a moment now to answer those questions that you heard your peers and friends answer. What will I keep from this pandemic year? What will I let go of? What will I envision for the future? You may take a moment and jot down things that come to mind. You may enter them in the chat if you like. Let's take 2 minutes to reflect. May our lives be deepened and strengthened by the sharing that we do with those whom we love and grow together. And now let's sing our closing hymn. May we keep on until we find it. More love, more joy, more peace, more hope. Go in peace and see you next week, live and in person. Amen. We invite you now to stay with us in our Zoom rooms for a time of online fellowship and discussion. Barb and Fred are here to tell us how this is going to work.
I'm Barb Richards.
I'm Fred Cole, and it's only a week, so it's going to be really important that you keep track of what the information that's coming from us. Check your emails every day because there may be something else. And we're asking everyone to register for which service they'll come to so that we can get an idea of the counts. And also we'll have the information we need for contact. So please keep track of your messages this week because there's more and more coming as we go along. Anyway, please join us now for a little time of one-on-one or 1-on-5, whatever it is, as we go to our chat rooms. Wait for your invitation. Cut in half.
Good morning, George. You're on mute.
Hey, Tom.
Hey, how you doing?
Dude, hanging in there. Feeling pretty well. Thanks.
Yeah, you look like you got pretty good color.
Red-faced as usual.
Yeah, looks good.
You've been fishing lately?
A little bit. Actually was out in Ouray and did the hike up to Blue Lakes and caught one nice cutthroat, about 13 inches.
Good, good. Yeah, the news I keep reading about potential fishing opportunities are not, the news is not so good generally.
Yeah, I guess I keep hearing about the problems with salmon migrations on the West Coast with the drought and the fire. It's really tough on the fish.
Yeah, drought, fire, and climate change all kind of adding up to limit opportunity and to cause concern, about future opportunity. But a mission in front of us to try to help to the extent we can.
Yeah, it was actually pretty amazing. 2 years ago, I went to the Wind River Range around July 20th, and it was a late winter, and there was still snow and tons of water, and the conditions were great. And then this summer, I went at the exact same time of year, and no snow, dry, warm. All the trout were deep in the lake, and it was a different world. There's such an early spring.
Yeah. Meanwhile, around here, close in, you look out and it should be brown and sere, and it's we continue to benefit from a really wet spring here, but it's very local.
Yes, yeah, it's so local to the level in the last week or two. Several times I've seen big storms going over Boulder, and then big storms going over to the east of us, and Lafayette's been dry.
Yeah.
Just super localized.
Yeah, when I lived in the mountains on Lee Hill, I could look down over Boulder Reservoir and over the current mesa that I basically live on in Louisville, and I would see the weather breaking there. And I think that pattern still exists here, a very local pattern where, there's this still remnants of the Great Basin at the base of the Front Range. And of course, that basin is broken through in geological time in places, but there was, from that high viewpoint when I was living in the Only Hill, looking down over everything, this evidence of the mesa that's sort of around Louisville and Erie, as the breaking point for the weather that was piling up along the Front Range.
So when you say breaking point, would it be clear? Like where would there be clearness and where would there be clouds?
It would really depend on what the weather was up to. If it was a upslope phenomenon, which is quite usual, you might see one thing going on. And if it was the opposite, where you were stuck in some kind of high pressure system or something, you'd get a different weather pattern. It's a little bit obscure. I have a hard time vocalizing it, but it was very obvious to me that kind of ridge was a point where weather would be quite different on one side and the other side. And I'll probably flog this long enough if I can't explain it any more clearly. It's time probably to drop it.
No, I think it's interesting because certainly I grew up on the East Coast, and when I moved out west, I heard people say the mountains make their own weather. And I said, well, that doesn't make any sense. On the East Coast, if you get a front coming across, you get rain, and it's just dictated by the main atmosphere. And then actually having gone into the mountains, I've experienced that the mountains certainly do make their own weather, and high mountains in Colorado, at least, are very regular on having thunderstorms in the afternoon, where Denver is very hit or miss, but the mountains are almost like clockwork. So it's cool that you could observe even in the Front Range, the mountains kind of making their weather and dividing things. So I get what you're saying.
Yeah, that's certainly the dominant pattern during the summertime. You know, we fishermen and everybody involved in all the outdoor activities going toward the mountains or into the mountains or away from them would be aware of, for instance, the necessity to, as soon as it starts, as it becomes obvious that clouds are forming, you know, a little after midday, you better start heading down if you're up high to get away from the threat of the storm.
Yeah. Did you ever do 14ers?
Mary and I started fooling around with that. She had done some, I never had. And so we picked, instead of the easier or perhaps the easiest ones that people pick, we went for snuffles at one point, which is spelled like snuffles, you know, and we looked at the guidebooks and mapped out the trail and everything. There's a pretty good hike in before you ever start going up that last steep slope. And, you know, with the aid of all the guidebooks and everything, you could get the routes. And we thought we were doing well, but we ended up going up one side of a pretty dramatic couloir. And that turned out to be the wrong side that we were going up, and we hit rim rock and couldn't get past it, and tried to cross that really loose gravel couloir, and it was a little too steep, and I started sliding, you know, and managed to, I guess I had a hiking pole with me or something, and managed to stop myself, but I was basically just hanging on above myself. And Mary, who had maybe two poles, I can't remember, she had a better grip anyway, managed to cross and aid me in getting off of that. But we were not able